Today, we're excited to have back Nick Biello on the podcast for another great conversation. If you haven't checked out his previous episode, be sure to check it out on Spotify and YouTube, all the other podcast forms. And we're excited to learn more about his journey and get some of his deep insights. So, Nick, great to have you back. Everything been good?
Yeah, man. Great to be back. Thanks for having me, Abe. Good to see you
Oh,
again, man.
good to see you. I was fortunate enough to catch your band at Smalls a couple weeks ago, and I was blown away, 100%.
Man, thank you so much. Thanks for hanging with us.
Yeah. So were you happy with the way that night went? Like both sets and everything? It felt good?
Yeah, it was amazing, man. I thought the band sounded great. The audiences were great. Obviously, playing at Smalls is always a blast. So it was a really special night. Yeah, thanks for being a part of it, man.
Yeah, and I know it was so great too. Like everyone was sharing stuff and you were reposting it, and that was so cool to see, just the that connection through social media and everything.
For sure, man. Yeah, when you see it like how your music has affected people and they're excited about it enough to put it up on social media and tag you, that's always a nice feeling.
Yeah, I loved how you played your original stuff. I'm a little biased because I really liked when you played solo. That was my favorite part when you played by yourself, for
Oh, thanks, man. The cadenza thing that I did.
yeah, that was great. I love
Thanks,
that.
bro. I've been doing that on almost all of my gigs. It's been something that I've been kind of refining over the past couple of years.
It's one of those if you have but you have to like if you make the set list, you have to say this is the tune I'm going to do the condense or it just comes to you on the spot for that during the set
Occasionally, it'll just happen organically, but usually I will do it on a ballad.
about.
Because I feel like a ballad gives the nice space for it.
Yeah, no, you seem to be in great spirits, and I'm sure that refueled. You're going to the West Coast for some exciting gigs. So, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I headed out to Oregon to play at the 1905, which is a great club in Portland, and then Christo's Lounge, which is a really nice venue in Salem. And then I go up to Washington, doing a bunch of school clinics, which I'm looking forward to, and gonna help actually the recruitment drive effort for the jazz festival that I direct in July. That's the Blaine Harbor Music Festival, and we have a big camp component to it. So, kind of gonna recruit a bunch of kids from high schools, middle schools.
You direct a jazz festival in July?
Yeah, every July.
Oh, where is this? Is this in Connecticut?
No, it's in Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, in
And
Washington.
actually, it's in Blaine, Washington, which is just north of Bellingham, but it's on the border of Canada. It's way up there.
Oh, that's
The very
awesome.
northwest corner of the United States. Yeah.
You're
Yeah, it's
playing
up
though
there.
too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started as the saxophone clinician there, and then I took over as the director a few years ago. But I, I I perform there, but I try to create the space more for the faculty and guest artists to perform more. So I'm doing like a mix of administrative, and then I teach one or two classes, and I'll play in some of the concerts too.
No,
Yeah.
that's so great you're directing it because there are many jazz festivals out there and the director is really, no musical experience whatsoever.
Yeah, that would be good.
No, but and I think that's what, that's what the world needs for someone like yourself to be in that position. But I know you're open enough to like, really, put your heart into it and everything.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's a labor of love.
How many
Yeah.
years you been doing that?
This is my fifth year.
Fifth year,
Yeah. And I've been doing the festival. I've been a part of the festival for about 20 years now.
20 years. Yeah.
Close to 20, yeah.
So, when you like, how did the role like kind of get changed from, becoming the director?
Well, the director, his name was Ted DeCorso, really wonderful director and a good friend of mine. He just retired because he was getting a little bit older and wanted to just set aside some time for himself to enjoy retirement. And they had the festival board had a search committee, and they decided to stay internal and move more towards younger presence and younger leadership. So I was fortunate enough to be in that position, and it's really a blessing to work with them. It's a wonderful festival.
Yeah,
Good
but
people, great musicians.
do you have to worry about like the logistical stuff, or is it more just about getting the artists, that sort of thing, and making
I do a lot of logistics. I plan the curriculums. I help with recruiting. Pick the venues for the performances, the evening concerts for the public events. Yeah, there's a lot of logistics, but fortunately, there's a great board in place with professionals and volunteers that really help with that stuff out a lot.
Yeah. No, that's great. And the fact that you're doing, these educational things out, in the West Coast too. So what's that going to be like? Are those going to be, you're going to be speaking with people like in the music, programs in the schools, like, or is it going to be like people who have just getting their first exposure to the music?
So we booked a bunch of high school master classes. So I'll go into work with the high school jazz bands and for an hour or two with some other musicians that will accompany me and we'll play for them and answer questions, kind of get them out of their shells a little bit, and then tell them about the festival. And then we have gigs that later that week too. We're also playing in Seattle at the Seattle Jazz Fellowship on the 14th, 13th. On the 12th, I'll be in Bellingham at the Firehouse Art Center. And then I play at the WMEA, Washington Music Educators Association Conference in Spokane, Washington. That's the 14th. And then out to Vancouver for the Bolt Jazz Festival on February 16th.
Yeah, so this is like this is a 9 to 5 in the jazz world, to do the educational stuff and do the playing. But that's how you're able to, you
Yeah,
know, that's how you make it work.
I make it work. Yeah, of course.
I mean, these are I don't think a lot of musicians realize that it's that type of grind sometimes, if you want to do what you want to do creatively on the bandstand, no matter how
Yeah,
good you are.
sleep is a luxury on the road, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not just sleeping in. We have to make sure that we have some events during the day that are getting filled up, whether it's rehearsals or these clinics, master classes that help not only pay for the tour, but it's also important to be able to meet with these younger people and pass on the information to them.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple kids that are probably going to stand out. They're going to not leave you alone at the end of the mat, but that's fine.
I hope so, man. Yeah, that's always fun. I like that. I like when we get some kids that are super into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got some, man. This is the first time seeing your full sleeves like on
Oh, man. Should I show
video.
the audience?
Yeah, and that's a thing. By
Or mic.
traditional standards, you got the look, way of 2025. You know what I mean?
This is just done right here a few days ago, so it's pretty sore. Got way up there.
A
And then
lot of
I have to,
tattoo. Yeah, your tattoos are beautiful.
thanks, man. They're the engravings on a saxophone.
That's what it is?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
When did you get your first tattoo?
Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started with this project, and I had an artist that did the lines only, which took a long time. And over the past few months, I've worked with a different artist who's doing all the shading. His name is Andres Flew. He works at this place called Red Rocket on 36th Street in Manhattan,
Hmm.
in Broadway. He's amazing, incredible.
When you like look, you can actually see what it looks like on your arms when you're playing the saxophone.
I guess so, yeah.
Do you think about that? Is it something that helps you kind of like? I mean, not
Mhm.
saying that that was the purpose of it to help, but does it like kind of like come into your thought like, oh, like I need to be more one with the instrument when you see those things?
No, you're right. It's a good question. That's kind of the point behind it. I felt like I wanted a tattoo, but I didn't want to get one just to be arbitrary. Um, but then I was looking at my horn one day and I was like thinking how much I love the saxophone, how beautiful it is. And I saw those engravings and I was like, that's it. That's the tattoo. It's kind of like just a reinforcement of that commitment. This is what I do. This is what I love to do.
Yeah, I no, I have a music tattoo also. I actually long story short, they messed it up, and I've been removing parts of, you know what I
Oh
mean?
man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all right. Don't go to, you have to like look into who you're going to. My point being,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I went someone's and they just, yeah, it's been a disaster to take it off, but I should have just left it alone from the get-go.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, you can always get it fixed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once it gets a little lighter and stuff, I'll probably,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
redo it and everything. But yeah, that's that. I mean, like you went the full, like are you gonna like how far are you gonna take it, you think?
Well, I think once I'm done with this forearm, because you can see there's just lines here,
Hmm.
it'll look something similar to this arm. And then I may get the tattoo extended onto my hand because
Ah,
it's the hand that you can see when you play the saxophone, the left hand that shows. And then I think I'm cool for a little while.
Yeah, that would be so. I mean, yeah, exactly. You know, that's the thing. It is painful to get your, but it is kind of addicting. I mean, I started with one, and
Very.
then you like
Yeah,
it's like relaxing being in the
it
tattoo
is,
shop.
man. It's almost like they're not adding ink to your body. The feeling that I get is that they're revealing what's already there.
Mm,
And I think I'm gonna probably get more ink at a later point in my life when something else comes to me, but I'm happy with the amount I have coming on now.
yeah. And that's the thing too. Like I said, like you know, as jazz musicians, like we can, you have more of the look of, more like a. I don't want to say rock star. That's too cliche, but. Everything is a form of, I mean, I like to think I'm that way too. I dress the way I want to dress and, I don't, but these are things we think about, like that things are, that the way we look is a form of expression.
It really is, man. I've been embracing that a little bit more lately. Just finding the things about myself that I like and that
Mm.
I'm proud of and trying to accentuate those, not in a way that I think comes across as being vain, hopefully, but more in a self-empowerment sort of fashion. Because like you said, we're on stage for people to see. And a big component of the performance is the visual
Oh
aspect.
yeah, people don't think
You know?
about this stuff. People want to look
Yeah,
at, they don't want to look at someone just, they want to see like someone, they want to, we hear with our eyes.
yeah. Unfortunately, that's true, but that can also be really fun when you embrace that.
Yeah, no, this is something that jazz musicians, this is like almost secondary to a lot of them.
A lot of them, yeah.
Hmm.
It was for me for a long time too.
When did that change?
I just think over the past couple of years, as I just gradually kind of came out of my shell and got more self-confidence and realized that there are certain ways I like to present myself in terms of the way I'm dressing and then taking care of myself fitness-wise and health-wise. I liked the feeling of the confidence that I got from being able to have that empowerment of presenting myself in the way that I was comfortable with. Because you're up there for everyone to see, and if when I didn't feel good about the way I looked, it added an extra layer of challenge to express myself musically because I was kind of a little bit insecure about the way that I appeared.
Did someone like say something to you, or was it just like, you just had this like in like gut feeling about it?
I think it's all based on how I'm feeling. It's not so much external validation or lack thereof. It was more just like I don't know. I didn't feel like I was fully myself. And I knew that feeling when I was on stage, just like I knew when I was sounding the way I wanted to sound and felt happy with that. I knew that when I was presenting myself in a way that I was happy with.
Yeah, I have this weird thing. It's like I feel like if I'm clean shaven, like I can't play well. I need to
You're
have
clean
like
shaven?
I don't know. I've been trying to get over it for like the last couple of years, but it's
Yeah.
just like I don't know why. I feel like I need the imperfection. You know what I mean? Like on
Yeah, I kind of get
myself.
it. You need a little that grit.
Yeah, but it's like if it's just like I feel like totally like just I don't know what it is. I'm trying to get over it. It's just superstition, in a sense. Are you still are you still on your Joe Henderson like exploration or like exploring some stuff of his like musically?
I was just listening to the new record with McCoy, the LP. I woke up and put it on, one of the sides on. I've also been reading a bunch of books on Charlie Parker and got into this Charlie Parker album called The Washington Concerts. I think it's not as well known outside of the circle of real Charlie Parker fanatics, but it's an amazing live concert in Washington, D.C. that he played with a big band. And apparently he just went in, had no charts, and was just like soloing over these arrangements, and they would modulate and he would hear where they would go. And you can really hear him reacting in the moment and playing over these big band arrangements and sounding unbelievable.
Yeah, so it's more like it's a biography type stuff, like just stuff we don't know about in that like these stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw something on your social media when you were playing you weren't playing jazz, you were playing like more like funk or rock stuff, like
Oh, yeah.
almost well, this was like in the last couple of weeks. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, or maybe a couple posts like
Is it
this.
a story or a post?
It was a story.
Oh, was it like a large
Yeah,
venue? Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I think that could have been from the NJ Pack concert that I was in. which was like an Israeli pop concert. Really fun. Yeah, this cat named Zusha.
Uh-huh.
He's like a famous like Hasidic singer, and a bunch of these other really well-known like some guys from Israel, and then some guys from Brooklyn in like the Israeli Jewish scene. And we just did this huge event at
Like a
the end.
lot with like klezmer music, like
No, it's not klezmer. It's like modern Israeli pop music.
modern Israeli pop.
Yeah, so it's a lot of like EDM kind of elements and techno and yeah, it was a really fun event.
Yeah, so you're doing other gigs besides, your stuff, but they're very prestigious venues.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I think, in order to make a living as a musician, it's important to be flexible. But I also am really interested and always have been interested in playing music besides just jazz.
Yeah, but I feel like, you're the type of musician who would show up to that gig and it's just, oh, this is just another gig. You're not going to look at it that way. You're going to embrace what the situation really calls for and find the even though you're reading music, I'm sure there's an improvise like you're still going to find your way to put your spin on it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, man. I think I just go into those gigs and I enjoy them more than I would have in the past because I just have a new appreciation for life in general. And
Hmm.
so I really embrace every gig that I have, whether it's in a jazz club or a festival gig or like something that in the past maybe I wouldn't have put on the same pedestal of importance in the grand scheme of
Yeah, like with
things.
the Nick Biello, like 10 years ago, got into that situation with the same attitude that he did, recently,
No, no, the Nick Biel 10 years ago would have had a bad attitude, probably. Would probably have been a little snobby about that gig. Yeah.
So you're open to, if it's the phone rings and the money's right and the music is,
Yeah, I
you,
think the music has to be cool, the hang has to be cool. There's still some gigs that we'll all, I'm sure you've had this experience to come across and you're like, even if the bread is good, it doesn't really click. It's not a good fit.
yeah,
You're
sometimes we
like the
need the
vibe is
money.
bad.
We
What's
need the
that?
money sometimes.
I know. I try to like avoid taking gigs where it's just about the bread because for me, then I get a little bit dark. Not on the gig, but I just feel like I made the wrong decision. I should not be here right now.
Have you ever done any of like subbed in Broadway shows before, done any of that stuff?
I've never done any Broadway. I've never sought it out because, to be honest with you, my clarinet playing is not great.
Oh, you have to sub, right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
not sub. You have to
double.
double. That's the word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I enjoy playing flute, but I never really focused hard enough on clarinet to move past a certain level on the instrument.
So for all the Broadway saxophone gigs, you have to do those three. Like there's just
Most
no,
of them. Yeah.
wow.
And sometimes more. Like I play some oboe. I have an oboe. Sometimes you have to play like all these wild, ethnic flutes. Depends on the book. But in general, you're playing at least three horns, oftentimes more.
If someone called you to sub, like, do you think you would do it?
If I could play the book,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, sure. Why not? If I was free, I would love to. Yeah. I
No,
don't
I was
have
talking to
anything
my
against
friend.
Broadway.
He's another guitar player. And there's so many great jazz players who
Yeah.
do shows, and it's
Who was
just
your friend?
Nat Janoff.
Oh yeah, I know Nat. He's doing
Yeah.
Broadway now.
No, we were talking about one of his friends who plays on Broadway.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, but these are just gigs that like I don't know if you felt this way, but when you were younger, you're like, yeah, I can be a Broadway musician. That's how I'll make my living. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
never I never targeted Broadway, but it wasn't because I had disdain for it. It just didn't seem like the skill set that I had built up over the years would lend itself the best to Broadway in terms of me just slacking off on playing clarinet. That's what it
yeah,
just comes down to, man.
yeah, no, I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't get my clarinet shit together, man.
But I could totally see you let's say let's just throw the first thing that came to my mind was like let's say Lady Gaga if she needed a saxophone player.
Yes, yes, Lady Gaga, I will play with you.
No, but if she got the call like and we got to go for 6 months, do you think you would do it?
Oh yeah, of course, man. That'd be a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that music should be looked at in these boxy terms like genre. I think a lot of cats when they're younger, especially, they look at things like that. But as I get older, I realize that there's great music, regardless of, you know, what the record label kind of boxes it or packages it as.
You mean like younger me? Wait. Let me backtrack for 1 second. So we tend to just box it into genres, you think, like just overall?
When I know I can only speak for personal experience. When I was younger, I
Hmm.
was definitely a little bit more of an elitist sort of musician where I always checked out other types of music, but I didn't really take them as seriously as playing jazz or classical music. And I didn't really have an interest to invest a lot of my career into them. Whereas now I don't really see a huge distinction if I get called to play with like a rock band as
So you're
compared
you're
to
you're you're down if the opportunity is there.
I just like playing good music, man.
Yeah. But
Totally.
there is also like you would have to like leave for 6 months or something. You would still be okay with that.
I mean, I think that would be the challenge, is the logistical, side of shutting down the local scene and just going out for 6 months. But I mean, depends on how the gig pays. What are you offering?
No, I mean, I actually do know her father, believe it or not. I should
Well, I
know.
work with Brian Newman a lot, and he's married to her sister.
Brian Newman. Oh, okay, that's how.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, I
yeah.
never because I used to play the family restaurant for like 3 years.
Her father's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the reasons I got the gig was because, well, first of all, I didn't know that he was the father. You know what
I
I
see.
mean?
It's
But
like a
I
real
never met
Italiano,
what?
like a real Italiano,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. I never once mentioned the name Lady Gaga to him.
Oh, wow.
Never once. It was actually like pretty funny.
So how did it come up?
What?
How did you find out that that was her dad?
Um, I just like, I just like recognized the name. Like, do I said this name sound familiar? Like Joe Germanata. And then I was like, oh. Then I Googled. I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what I mean?
That's wild, man.
Yeah, because we played there like at the restaurant. Me and my friend played like jazz duo,
Mhm.
and you know, this is funny. I think you'll think this is funny. Like, when restaurants start asking like, "Oh, are you going to bring people to the gig?" You know what I mean? And I just wanted to be like, have an attitude about it, but I just answered respectfully. And I'm like, I'm like, who is this person asking this question? And then I Googled the name, and it was, oh, okay. I should behave.
But also, like, he should know better than ask that question.
You
I
mean
would
like
say,
if it's a restaurant, we're going to bring people and
yeah,
stuff?
he should know better because his daughter is obviously such a huge figure in show business. You should have an understanding that if you hire like a jazz duo for your restaurant gig, they're not
Exactly. Yeah.
packing the place. Like, what
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah,
That's
I mean, but it just even someone at his level, is thinking about these, things and the business aspects of it, But then no, I started playing there every week.
that's
I
cool,
did
man.
I did get a raise.
Are you still there?
No, no.
Okay,
I got a raise from $75 to $100
nice,
without
nice.
asking.
That's
And then I
killing.
knew- then I knew I made it.
Yeah, that's when you know that cat likes you because you didn't even ask for a
I
raise.
didn't ask for a raise.
A guy like that won't just volunteer a raise unless you're really killing it.
Yeah, I mean, uh, you know how it is, like, playing in restaurants and stuff like that. There's just so many of these like little annoying components that we have to deal with.
Honestly, man, I used to get very bent out of shape from those idiosyncrasies, like a maitre d' or club owner busting your balls over something. And I don't know what happened, man. I think I just got so burnt out that now I don't usually let those things bother me anymore. I'm actually happy to say.
Yeah.
I don't take, you know what it is, man? I did some gigs that in my mind I built up as really big gigs, like a big deal. And
Hmm.
then they came and went, and I realized that wasn't that big of a deal. And I kind of look at every gig as just not a big deal. Like there's wacky things that we deal with on every gig. And it's just kind of one big, not a joke as if I don't take it seriously, but I don't take the gigs
You have
serious.
to have a certain level of detachment.
Yeah, dude. It's actually funny to me.
Yeah.
Like you'll play like a festival gig and there's something incredibly whack involved with the gig. And you're like, this is supposed to be a major festival. And
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
so like not on the level. There's something happening here with like someone that's involved in the festival or backstage, something is super weird. And it's like I can't take any of this seriously. It's we have the only job in the world where one day we'll play for like 20,000 people and be treated like rock stars. And the very next day we have to take like the service entrance, through the kitchen to play some wedding or some kind of private event. And we get bandwiches and we're treated like the help.
And you
It's
have
like
to
we
run
have
around
this,
asking for the check, like wait
what's
around.
that?
That was my, I hated that. I hate that waiting around to get paid.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not into that either.
It's
That's the
so
worst.
annoying. But yeah, no, I think, but that's, if there is a place that's nice and like you can go along with them, if you guys have an understanding, like great. But most of
Totally.
the time, it's not like that with a lot of gigs.
A lot of times it's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to have that detachment. It is fun. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've done a lot of things like when I wasn't treated right at gigs. Like,
Like
so
what?
like one time like I was playing standards at this restaurant, and then like the day, and we were booked again, and the day of, he was like, yeah, can you play more songs that people know? And then like I'm like, you know what? Yes. And like we did the Macarena.
Ah,
And
ah, that's amazing.
I know, no, and if he asked me about it, I would have looked him dead in the eyes. I'm like, no, this is one of the most popular songs of the 90s, you know, even though
And
it's probably the
how
most,
did it go over?
what?
How did it go over?
Who even, you know what I mean? Like
Who knows?
he wasn't even there. So it's just like,
Amazing. Yeah.
what's different? It was, but this is the attitude you have to have a funny attitude about it.
Dude, I've done so many weird gigs over the past few years. I'd love to tell you about at least a couple of them.
Please, what do you have any
One of
funny
the weirdest
stories
was this like Russian like restaurant and bar, super swanky that
in the
no one
city?
would know about. It was in like Brighton Beach or something like that, like way down in the bowels of Brooklyn. And someone got me a lead on the gig and they paid fine and I had a trio, cordless trio, right?
Hmm.
Like disco balls hanging, like crystal, super nice, like a high-end restaurant, huge restaurant, barely ever packed out. And it was just like Russian people, which, that's cool. But I was like, what? They're not going to want to hear like cordless trio jazz. And so, we're playing, we're doing our thing. And the owner comes up and he's like, they want to dance. People want to dance. Can you play
Oh
some?
my God.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, we have no amplification. The bass it doesn't have amp. And I'm like, okay, we'll do our best, man, but you got to understand this is not like we're not set up to play any dance music. I would love to play dance music. It's just not that kind of gig. And we did our best, and it just kept progressively getting worse and worse. And we just ended up packing up and I was like, man, you need to get a DJ. Like, I think
Yeah.
this thing for this place. And then recently I got hired. It was cool, but I got hired to play a private party at this wine bar in Manhattan. They just wanted solo saxophone. And it was
Solo saxophone.
so weird, man. It was cool. I was happy to do it, but I just walked around and like just played saxophone in people's faces. And I don't think they liked it. And I don't blame them. It was like this little
Yeah.
room. And I
It,
wanted them to like it, but I was just like, you're set up to kind of fail in those situations.
it's funny. Like I go to like I'm like at sometimes I go to restaurants like with a friend or with my wife, and I'm like if there's music, I'm like please sit us as far away as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hear
But yeah,
it.
but like sometimes like I've gone to like restaurants and I've sat like just a duo, a drum and guitar, and it's so loud. I'm like, how is this enjoyable for anybody?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But these are the situations that we deal. We should do a whole podcast and just exchange stories about like exchange these type of stories.
I have so many like crazy gig stories, man. I have one that amongst my friends from Connecticut is like an infamous story. It's too long to tell now, and it's also a very, I mean, I think there's like some not safe for work elements to the story, but I would love to hear
Would you tell
yours.
it though? Like, would you tell it
I would
publicly?
tell it. Yeah, I would tell it. It's
Okay.
the craziest gig story. It's yeah. For some reason I just end up I think because I've always been so open to taking gigs that pay the bills and
Yeah.
not feeling like ashamed or that I need to only present myself in a way that's highly prestigious, that I will take a gig that pays well, even if it's just a strange gig or not necessarily an artistic gig. I've always looked at myself as more of a blue collar kind of
If
guy.
someone gives you $1,000 for an hour, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's
And
an
so if I
hour.
have students are like that come across in a way where they're like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, I hope that you are already rich because I'm not, and I'm happy to make a lot of money playing the saxophone.
Yeah, I have one of my old teachers at Berkeley. He offers gigs to students like that he can't make, and he just tells me now they're just like, "Oh no, 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 I'm not doing that," you know. No, no. I
That's
won't work
crazy.
for less than 300, you know.
Wow.
Listen,
Times
I
are
get it.
changing,
Everyone
man.
has their agenda.
Yeah, I guess so.
But we really should do like a whole separate show just about this story you're talking. How long would it how like it'd probably take like 10 minutes to tell or something, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, it's a little bit of a story, and I would also have to get into the right headspace for it. It was wild, dude. It was wild.
In Connecticut.
This is no, it actually happened in Brooklyn.
Oh, in
I
Brooklyn.
was kind of living in Connecticut at the time, so I told a bunch of the Connecticut musicians that were in my scene, and it just became like a legendary story amongst these guys.
Yeah. Is there a good scene in Connecticut, you think? Like a healthy scene in, like Hartford and New
Hartford
Haven?
has always been pretty cool. There's always been like a torch burning in Hartford. Now there's that place Black Eyed Sally's that trumpet player Hanif Nelson books, and he does a good job with that series. And there's the Hart School of Music, so there's always that influence. Of course, the great Jackie McLean really made Hartford what it is with the Artist Collective, and so many great musicians have come out of Hartford. But in general, Connecticut is kind of like a giant suburb.
A giant
Even
suburb. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
even in the cities. So creative music is not exactly flourishing there, but there are amazing musicians there for
Yeah.
sure.
I think we have to like do our we have to we are the create we just have to be as creative as we can and whenever we get the opportunity to, you know.
That's funny that you say that. Like, even having this discussion with you is making me realize growing up in a place and spending so much time in Connecticut, and I've been gigging there since I was like literally 12, 13 years old, with my dad. I kind of learned to play music that wasn't necessarily what we would call artistic and function in these more, I guess, commercial settings. And look at that not as something that was a detriment to your career or something to be ashamed of, but it was just a way to make money playing your instrument. So I became really comfortable in these types of situations because if you grew up in Connecticut, that's kind of what you had to do if you wanted to make a living playing music.
Yeah, it's interesting like there's such a separation that this is the thing artists struggle with all the time. The separation between what your art and the money. Uh,
Yeah.
I had a camp counselor when I was like 10. And once when I finished, I remembered he was a saxophone player. Like I remembered his name. And then when I finished Berkeley and I was 18, like I friended him on Facebook and he was like, "How the hell do you remember me, number one?" Because he played saxophone, I thought it was
Okay.
cool. And he was like, "Oh, well, if you want to play jazz, no. Like you need to start playing in cover bands immediately if you want to make a." I'm like, "Oh man, this is not what I want to hear right now."
That's pretty dark.
Yeah, it
He
was
told you
pretty
that
dark.
as a kid?
What?
He told you that as a kid?
No, he told me that when I was 18.
Okay.
But when I was 10 years old, he was my camp counselor. He, always talking about the saxophone and stuff. And I was like, he's in Jersey. Maybe he plays. And he was a professional musician, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, it is. But but he was talking about what, just the financial stuff.
Mhm. I mean, there's got to be another path to income. It can't just be like I'm gonna play only jazz gigs and only creative gigs, and I'm gonna make that my only income source.
Yeah. I think you just have to,
Everyone does something else.
no, I think you have to find you have to find there's the creativity in the teaching.
Exactly. You do teaching, or maybe you do some writing, maybe you do contracting, maybe you don't have to play like wedding gigs, but there's got to be something that you do that brings in additional income unless you want to be poor.
You go into teaching, like, I mean, like the same headspace, like, I'm just gonna be, the way I'm gonna be me on the saxophone on a jazz gig. I'm just gonna be me teaching. And if you think that way, isn't it like much easier? You know?
I love teaching.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's an extension of who we are as performers. And I also love helping people. I like helping these young musicians, and I'm inspired to try to, enrich their musical experience because I had some amazing teachers that I, you know, was I was fortunate to be in their orbit, so now I have to pay back what was given to me.
you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Um, so Nick, we're gonna have to do part three with the gig stories.
Let's do the gig stories, man. We'll go
Let's
one
make
for
that
one.
the let's make that the like okay, we're doing this is going to be about the gig story. We're going to go back and forth.
I would love to, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. But thanks so
Sounds
much,
great.
man, and for doing it. And we'll, go check out Nick in the West Coast on all these great states. Seattle and Washington. Oregon. He'll be out there.
And can I also plug my upcoming single
Please.
really quick? I know we only have a couple minutes left, but um, it's on the La Reserve label, and the first single is coming out. I think it's February 20th on all streaming platforms. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and that's going to be part of the my next record, which is called New America. The first single is Bel Canto.
When does it come? It's going to be out in
February 20th is the first single.
okay, February 20th.
Yeah, yeah,
That'll be the first, and it'll be on all the we could Apple and Spotify,
totally. Yeah, exactly.
everything, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Amazon, Pandora, the whole nine yards.
Oh, thanks so much, Nick, and always a pleasure to see you.
Great to see you, man. Great to hang. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.